I used to travel constantly for work. Training events, short contracts, conferences, anything that meant I'd be on the road for a few days at a time. And because it was work, I never cared about luxury. I wasn't looking for a spa, a rooftop bar, or one of those hotel lobbies that smell like expensive candles. I wanted two things: a bed and a shower. Cheap but decent hotels were my default, and for years nothing ever happened to make me question that habit. No weird encounters, no "I should have listened to my instincts" stories, just bland rooms, bland hallways, and the kind of sleep you get when you're exhausted and don't have the energy to be picky. That changed on a trip to a small city in Pennsylvania. I checked into a regular-looking place late in the evening, the kind of hotel you forget the second you leave it. The lobby was tiny, old, depressing red carpet, dim lighting, and a smell that instantly took me back to my grandma's house, like warm dust, old fabric, and something vaguely sweet that shouldn't be lingering in the air. The woman at the front desk barely smiled. She handed me a key card and told me my room was on the third floor. Her voice had that tone like she'd said the exact same sentence 1,000 times and didn't care if she said it one more. I went up. The third floor hallway was quiet. Not peaceful quiet, empty quiet, like sound didn't travel properly, like the building itself absorbed it. The lights were on, but they felt weak, and the carpet looked like it had been walked on by tired people for decades. My room was normal. Small bed, desk, bathroom, nothing dramatic. I threw my bag on the bed, turned on the TV for noise, took a quick shower, and tried to shut my brain off. I fell asleep fast. Then I woke up in the middle of the night to a sound that didn't belong. A soft sliding noise. At first, my half-asleep brain tried to explain it away. Ice machine, pipes, someone dragging luggage, something normal. But it happened again, quieter, more deliberate. And this time, it was right by my door. I blinked at the darkness for a few seconds, trying to decide if I was imagining it. Then I reached over and turned on the lamp. The room filled with that weak yellow light, and the first thing I saw made my stomach turn cold. A small strip of white paper was sticking out from underneath my door. Not a receipt, not a flyer, not one of those breakfast is from 6 to 9 slips. This was folded, handwritten. I got up slowly and picked it up like it might bite me. My hands felt stiff, like my body hadn't caught up to what I was seeing yet. The handwriting was messy, uneven, shaky, like whoever wrote it had been rushing or trembling. The message was short. It said that someone was watching me from somewhere inside the hotel. My heart started pounding so hard it felt like it was pushing against my ribs. I stood there, staring at that note, waiting for another sound, footsteps, laughter, anything that would make it feel like a prank. Nothing. The hallway stayed dead silent. That silence was worse than any noise, because it meant whoever slid that note didn't walk away like a normal person. I didn't open the door. I didn't even go near the peephole at first. I stepped back, latched the chain lock, then double-checked the regular lock like doing it twice could change reality. Then I sat on the bed with my back against the wall and kept the lamp on. I told myself, maybe it's just a stupid prank. Maybe someone's messing around. Maybe the hotel's full of bored teenagers. But the hallway hadn't sounded like a hallway full of anyone. It sounded like a hallway in a building that wanted to stay asleep. About 20 minutes passed. My body was tense the whole time. I was listening so hard that the air conditioner clicking on made me flinch. Then I heard it again. That same slow sliding sound against the carpet. My eyes locked onto the bottom of the door. I didn't move. I barely breathed. A second piece of paper slid under, slowly, like someone wanted me to hear it, like they were enjoying the idea of me watching it happen. I picked it up without opening the door. My hands were shaking now, and I hated that it was happening to me. I hated that my body was reacting before my mind could settle. The second note said something worse. It said the person had been inside my room earlier that day, before I arrived, and that they liked watching people sleep in this hotel.
The handwriting looked even shakier than the first, like the writer was excited or unstable or both. My brain tried to reject it. My brain kept reaching for logic. It's impossible. They wouldn't. They couldn't. But fear doesn't care what's possible. Fear only cares what's possible. I checked the room. Under the bed, closet, behind the curtains, behind the shower curtain. I even checked the bathroom door twice, even though I knew it was just me. Everything was empty. And somehow that didn't help, because now the room didn't feel safe. It felt staged, like something could be wrong and still look normal. I sat back on the bed and stared at the door, trying to decide if I should call the front desk. But it was after 2 a.m., and a thought crept in that made my stomach sink. What if it's staff?
I didn't know who had access to keys. I didn't know who was working overnight. The first desk clerk had been calm in a way that didn't feel comforting, more like she didn't care. I stayed still, listening. Every tiny sound made me jump. Pipes, AC, a car outside, the hotel settling, my own breathing. I told myself that if a third note came, I was leaving. No debate, no maybe, no waiting. Time stretched. For a while, nothing happened, and I almost started to relax. My shoulders dropped slightly, my heartbeat slowed just enough that I noticed how tired I was. Then it happened. The third note came through slower than the others. I watched it slide inch by inch like a finger was guiding it into my life. I picked it up, and my blood went cold. The third note said the person was already inside the room with me again. I read it 3 times like the words might change. Then I stood up and slowly turned in a full circle, scanning every corner like a trapped animal. I didn't even blink properly. My mouth felt dry. My chest felt tight. I checked the room again, faster this time. Closet, under the bed, bathroom, curtains. Nothing. But the note wasn't a hallucination. It was in my hand. I grabbed my bag. I didn't care about being polite. I didn't care about looking stupid. I didn't care about my training event the next day. I only cared about getting out of that room. I went to the door and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. I unlatched the chain lock and opened the door quickly, like ripping off a bandage. I stepped into the hallway and slammed the door behind me, then walked fast, trying not to run, but failing. When I reached the stairs, I glanced back once. At the far end of the hallway, near the last room, I thought I saw a shadow move, like someone stepping back behind the corner to avoid being seen. My stomach dropped. I didn't stop to confirm it. I went down to the front desk. A different employee was there now, a man who looked half asleep. When I told him about the notes, his face changed from tired to confused to uneasy. He said there were only 3 other guests on my floor. He said none of them had been walking around. He offered me a new room. He offered to let me check out. I chose to check out. I asked him to come upstairs with me to check my room. He hesitated, but agreed, brought a master key, and we went up together. When we entered my room, it looked normal, but the window latch wasn't. The lock was broken in a way that looked fresh, like something had been forced recently. The employee's face tightened. He got quieter. He said maybe someone from outside had gotten in earlier. He said it like he wanted the conversation to end. I grabbed my bag and left. I drove to a different hotel about 20 minutes away and barely slept. The next morning, I called the original hotel to see if they'd found anything else. They said no cameras caught anyone, no other guests complained, nothing strange came up. They made it sound like nothing happened, but I didn't buy it, because I still remember the way that third note felt in my hands, and the way the hallway shadow moved like it knew I was looking. And the worst part, even if it was a prank, the window lock wasn't.
If you're into true-style horror stories like this, hotel encounters, late-night paranoia, the kind of fear that doesn't leave you after you're safe, subscribe right now and turn on notifications because these get darker and you don't want to miss the next one.
A while after the Pennsylvania incident, I told myself I was overreacting. I wanted to believe that story was a one-time nightmare, a weird coincidence, the kind of thing that happens once and never again. But then, Virginia happened. I was driving to visit family, and I pushed myself too hard. It was late, almost midnight, and my eyes kept doing that heavy lid thing where the road starts feeling like it's drifting. I pulled off and found a basic hotel. The building looked clean enough. The parking lot had only a few cars. Most windows were dark. Inside, the lobby was quiet and lifeless. The man at the front desk barely looked up. No small talk, no "how was your drive?" Just a key card slid across the counter and a vague gesture toward the elevator. Third floor again. I didn't like that. The hallway was dim, and almost every door had a "Do Not Disturb" sign hanging, like people were hiding from the world. My room was at the end of the hall, the kind of spot that feels too isolated even when you're not paranoid. I opened the door. The room looked fine at first, but something about it felt off. The lamp was slightly tilted, one dresser drawer was cracked open. The blanket on the bed had a wrinkle near the corner, like someone had sat there and just left. It wasn't messy like someone trashed it. It was messy like someone rushed, like housekeeping didn't care, like the room wasn't properly reset. I tried to ignore it. I dropped my bag on the chair, turned on the TV, and got into bed. Exhaustion knocked me out. Later, I woke up to a sound so soft, I almost thought it was part of a dream. The doorknob turning, slowly. I stared at the door in the dark. The TV glow lit the room just enough that I could see the handle shift slightly. Someone was testing the lock. My whole body went cold. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe properly, because part of me thought if I stayed perfectly still, whoever it was might assume the room was empty or the guest was asleep. The handle stopped. Silence. Then a new sound, a small metal scraping at the lock, someone sliding a key into the door. That made no sense. No one should have a key to my room besides staff. I heard the key turn. The door pushed gently like it should open, but it didn't. Something held. Maybe the latch, maybe the lock didn't catch properly. I don't know. I just know the door didn't swing open the way it wanted to. The sliver of hallway light disappeared. The door closed softly again, and footsteps never came. I lay there for a long time, wide awake, trying to rationalize it. Maybe staff mixed up rooms. Maybe someone tried the wrong door. Maybe I'm paranoid because of Pennsylvania. Eventually, exhaustion dragged me back under. Then, around 2:15 a.m., I woke again. This time, it wasn't the door. It was rustling inside the room. It was faint, like someone shifting something carefully. I sat up slowly, and in the darkness, I saw a shape near my bag in the corner. A person, barely visible, hovering over my things. My voice came out shaky. "Who is that?" A deep man's voice answered immediately, like he'd been prepared for that exact question. "It's housekeeping. Sorry, I'll leave now." He moved fast. A dark mass crossed from my bag to the door, and the door opened and closed. I flicked on the light so hard my finger hurt. I slammed the chain lock on, then rushed to my bag. It had been gone through. That feeling, knowing your personal stuff was touched by a stranger while you slept, hit me like nausea. I called the front desk. I told them someone entered my room with a key and went through my things. The person at the desk said something that made my skin crawl. No housekeeping staff was currently there. I packed immediately.
I grabbed everything, even stupid things like chargers and toiletries, because I couldn't handle the idea of leaving anything behind. Then I went down to the lobby and called the police. When officers arrived, the desk worker suddenly became cooperative, like authority forced honesty out of him. They pulled surveillance, and there it was. A large, sketchy-looking man walking the hallway multiple times, passing my door, coming back, standing there, then finally entering my room like he belonged there, with a key. The front desk man claimed the guy didn't work there. He said the guy must have stolen a master key. He said it like that explanation made it less horrifying. I got my money back. I left. I drove another half hour and ended up sleeping in my car because I couldn't bring myself to trust another building that night. That experience permanently changed the way I look at hotels, because it wasn't paranormal. It wasn't maybe I imagined it. It was a real person with access to a key. And that's worse.
After Virginia, you'd think I would have stopped staying in cheap hotels altogether. But reality is, when you travel alone, tired, and you just need a bed, you tell yourself you're being dramatic. You tell yourself it won't happen again. So when I planned a short weekend trip to New Jersey to hike a trail the next morning, I booked a cheap hotel near the area. The building had that old smell, stale carpet, detergent, and something faintly damp. The hallways felt too quiet, like the hotel wasn't empty but wanted to pretend it was. I checked in early evening. The woman at the front desk said something that felt like a throwaway comment. Housekeeping already cleaned all the rooms for the night. At the time, I didn't care. My room was on the second floor. The hallway light flickered as I walked. I remember thinking it was creepy, but I was tired and focused on getting food, showering, and sleeping. Inside, the room looked clean. The sheets were tucked perfectly, but the pillow on the chair was crooked, oddly crooked, like it had been moved and not put back. I straightened it without thinking. That small act ended up mattering more than I understood. I ate snacks, watched TV, and showered. When I came out, the bathroom mirror was foggy and the room felt colder than before. I told myself it was the AC or the damp towel in the bathroom. Then I got into bed. There was a dark corner near the closet, and my eyes kept drifting to it. Not because I wanted to, but because something in me felt like it needed to keep checking it. I fell asleep eventually. Sometime after midnight, I awoke to a soft sliding sound on the carpet. My eyes opened slowly. The room was dim, thin curtains, parking lot light bleeding in. I listened. Then I heard something that made my entire body tense. Breathing. Not mine. Slow, heavy breathing coming near the closet. I told myself it had to be the AC, but the AC was on the other side of the room and it didn't sound like that. The breathing stopped the second I shifted in bed. That was the moment it stopped being maybe, because machines don't pause when you move. I forced myself upright and looked toward the closet. The closet door was slightly closed. I knew it had been open. I remembered checking the room when I arrived. I remembered leaving it open. But now it was pulled in just enough to create a narrow gap. I stared at that gap like it was a mouth. Silence. Then I did the only thing my fear allowed. I backed toward the door without turning my back on the closet. I reached the knob, opened the door, and stepped into the hallway. The hallway was empty and felt even quieter than the room. My heartbeat was so loud it was almost painful. I went downstairs. No one was at the front desk. The desk phone was ringing and ringing like someone was calling and nobody wanted to answer. After a few minutes, the woman finally emerged from a back room looking tired and annoyed. I told her someone was in my room. She looked confused and said housekeeping was gone for the night and no one had keys besides her and an older housekeeper who left hours ago. She offered to come with me, so we went upstairs together. When we entered my room, everything looked normal. The closet was fully open again. The pillow on the chair was straight. Nothing looked touched.
She checked behind curtains, bathroom, under the bed. Nothing. Then she suggested maybe I had woken up confused. That offended me, but I was exhausted and embarrassed and didn't want a confrontation in a hallway at midnight. So I asked to switch rooms. She gave me a new key. I moved my stuff down the hall fast, locked the door, checked corners twice, and tried to sleep. I lay there listening to my own breathing until my eyes started to droop. Then I heard it, a housekeeping cart rolling down the hallway. Slow, squeaky wheels echoing like the sound wanted attention. The cart stopped right outside my door. I froze in bed, staring at the door like it might open itself. Then I heard it again, breathing, right outside my door, the exact same heavy, slow breathing. It went on for almost a full minute. Then a gentle sound, like a palm pressing softly against the door, not knocking, feeling, testing. Then the breathing stopped, the squeaky wheels squeaked again, and the cart rolled away into silence. I waited. Then I looked through the peephole. Empty hallway. No cart. Nothing. I didn't call the front desk again. I didn't want to be treated like I was imagining things. So I did what fear makes you do when you're alone. I locked the chain, shoved a chair against the door, and stayed awake until sunrise. In the morning, I checked out. A man was at the front desk now. When I told him what happened, he gave me a look I didn't like, half confused, half like he didn't want to talk about it. Then he said something that made my stomach sink. They hadn't had a night housekeeper on staff for the last week. The woman who used to work nights just stopped coming in. So housekeeping already cleaned all the rooms didn't make sense. Either she lied, or she believed someone who wasn't employed was still cleaning rooms. And that made the breathing outside my door feel a lot more real. I left and never went back.
For a while, I tried to convince myself that maybe I was just unlucky as a guest. But then I worked in a hotel. Not front desk, more like a house person, a mix of maintenance and housekeeping support, fixing appliances, bringing supplies, handling pool towels, basic repairs, whatever needed doing. This happened in the summer of 2023. My boss hired a new front desk worker for night shifts. For privacy, I'll call her Brianna. Because she was new and working nights, I was scheduled to help out on those shifts. It was a Wednesday, dead night, basically no check-ins, the kind of night where the hotel feels like a giant empty shell. Me and Brianna talked most of the shift while we did our rounds. At one point, I went to the pool area because we needed towels stocked. Guests had to sign a form to use the pool, and we'd hand them a pool key. Employees had master keys that opened almost everything. I used the key, unlocked the pool door, and stepped inside. The pool room had that humid chemical smell, echoes even when you whisper. There was a storage room where we kept towels and supplies, chlorine, equipment, extra toiletries. I opened it, grabbed a stack of towels, and bent down to pick up more. That's when I heard something hit the water, a loud splash. I jumped so hard I dropped the towels. I rushed back out into the pool area and saw a lifesaver floating on the surface. The only way it could have been in the water is if someone threw it in. But I was alone. I looked around fast, every corner, every bench, the windows, the pool entrance. No one. I pulled the lifesaver out, put the towels out, and left as quickly as I could, without sprinting. Back at the desk, I asked Brianna if anyone went to the pool. She said no. I didn't mention the splash. She was new, and I didn't want to sound insane, so I swallowed it and kept working. The night stayed normal until around 9:30 p.m. I grabbed a maintenance slip, room 324, toilet not working. Brianna said the guest wasn't arriving until Friday, so the room should be empty. I went upstairs. Room 324 opened easily with the key. When you entered, the bathroom was immediately to the right. 2 beds were on the right side if you walked past the bathroom.
I went straight to the toilet, lifted the tank lid, and started adjusting the valves and flapper. Everything was normal. Then the temperature dropped. Not gradually, not AC kicked on. It dropped like someone opened a freezer door. The hair on my arms rose. I stopped working and scanned for vents, windows, anything that could explain it. But it was summer, a warm summer night, and the room felt like it swallowed heat out of nowhere. Just as quickly, the air returned to normal. I checked the thermostat, 68 degrees. That made me more uneasy because I didn't remember touching it, and I didn't remember the room feeling that cold when I walked in. I wanted to finish and get out. I went back into the bathroom, focused on the toilet, and after a minute or two, it flushed properly again. Water refilled the tank. I sighed, relieved. Then I heard a thump in the room outside the bathroom, loud enough that it didn't feel like settling building or pipe knock. I froze, and that cold feeling came back instantly. My heart started hammering. I put the toilet lid down slowly and stepped out of the bathroom. The first thing I noticed was the room phone on the nightstand dangling like it had been yanked. But I wasn't looking at the phone. I was looking past it. In the corner of the room, near the bed, there was a tall figure standing perfectly still. No details, no face, no clothes, just a black silhouette in the dim room, like an outline cut out of darkness. My lungs felt like they forgot how to work. I stood in the bathroom doorway, frozen, staring, trying to understand what I was seeing. It didn't move at first. Then it did. I don't even know what part moved. Arm, shoulder, head, something shifted, and that was enough. I bolted. I ran for the main door, flung it open so hard I almost hit myself, and got out into the hallway like the hallway was oxygen. I didn't look back. I went straight down to the first floor where Brianna was and told her I was punching out early. I didn't explain. I couldn't explain. I left. Driving home, my mind kept connecting the pool incident to room 324, the splash, the cold, the silhouette. I still don't know what it was. I like to tell myself it was my brain misfiring in a dim room on a dead night in a building full of echoes and weird drafts. But I've never seen a draft stand in a corner and move, and I've never forgotten that night. If you made it to the end, comment which story hit you the hardest. The notes under the door, the man with the key, the breathing in the hallway, or room 324. And if you want more of these true-style hotel horror scripts, subscribe and turn on notifications, because I've got more stories coming that are even worse than these.